Hello, everyone, and welcome back to If It's Math. Today, we're going to be talking about number bonds, which are a relatively new way to teach grade school children about addition and subtraction. So don't feel bad if you have no idea what these are. I'd never heard of them until my kids started school, and I have a math degree. So let's start off with talking about what is a number bond. So, number bonds really show the relationships between the numbers that can be added together to make a larger number. So that's the general concept here. It's how are two numbers bonded together to form that larger number. And that's why it's called the number bond. But when you think about why is it that kids are learning about number bonds, really it's a new way to show students how addition and subtraction relate to each other. And so these number bonds become a visual representation of the addition and subtraction facts between three sets of numbers. So let's think about the number 3 as an example. So when you think about 3, we know that there are 3 addition and subtraction facts, and those are 3 equals 2 plus 1, 3 minus 2 equals 1, and 3 minus 1 equals 2. So all a number bond does is show these relationships as an image. So you have the 3 at the top, the 2 and the 1, and then you connect them. So this number bond then tells us that 3 equals 2 plus 1. That 2 equals 3 minus 1. And then 1 equals 3 minus 2. And that's all that a number bond is. It's just a way to show us which numbers you can add together to get a larger number. So one question that comes up a lot is how many number bonds are there? So if your child's been asked to draw out all the number bonds, this is what you'll frequently need to think through. So any number that is larger than 3 has more than one number bond. So when we think about an example, let's take a look at the number 4. So we know that 4 equals 3 plus 1, but 4 also equals 2 plus 2. So that's going to lead us to these two number bonds, where 4 is connected to 3 and 1, and then 4 is also connected to 2 and 2. So then there's actually an easy shortcut to know how many number bonds that there are. So if you want to know how many number bonds a specific number has, all that you have to do is divide that number by 2 and then ignore any decimal or remainder. So that's all it is. So all the number bonds for a specific number, divide it by 2, ignore the remainder, and that's what you have. So let's think about an example here as well. If you want to know how many number bonds does the number, let's say 10. So how many number bonds does 10 have? So 10 divided by 2 is 5. So 10 has 5 number bonds. It's that straightforward. So then if you needed to draw out all of them, you can see how they map out here. So 10 is 9 plus 1. 10 is 8 plus 2. 10 is 7 plus 3. 10 is 6 plus 4. And 10 is 5 plus 5. So that gives you all 5 number bonds for the number 10. So let's look at one more example. If you wanted to answer the question, how many number bonds does 13 have? You go through the same process. 13 divided by 2 is 6.5. And again, you just ignore whatever that remainder is. So there are 6 number bonds for 13. So let's go ahead and look at what those are. So we know 13 is 12 plus 1. 13 is 11 plus 2. 13 is 10 plus 3. 13 is 9 plus 4. 13 is 8 plus 5. And then finally, 13 is 7 plus 6. So that gives you all 6 number bonds for 13. Okay, so let's think about some type of practice problems that your kids might have looking at number bonds. So there really are two main kinds of practice problems that you'll encounter that use number bonds. So one type would be to give a number and ask for all the number bonds that make up that number. That's a pretty common one. So let's think about this example of draw all number bonds for the number 7. So the easiest way to think about this is to start with the 1 number bond. So in the case of 7, you would have that 7 is 6 plus 1. So that gives you that first number bond right off. So from there, really all that you need to do is just keep taking that left number down by 1 until you reach the loop where the bonds start to repeat. So the left number will go down by 1, and the right number will go up by 1. So again, just do that until you hit a number that you've already used. So let's think about the next one there. So 7, I'm going to take that 6 down by 1 and the 1 up by 1. So I've got 7, 5, and 2, and then 7, 4, and 3. Now, if I took 4 down again, I'd hit 3, but we've already had 3. So we know that we can stop because I've hit a number that I've already used in my number bond. And that's it. So you've got those 3 number bonds. So remember that you can check that you've gotten them all by remembering that trick we had of how many number bonds does any number have. So if we think about how many does 7 have, 7 divided by 2 is 3.5. You ignore that 0.5. So we know that 7 has 3 bonds, and we had the 3 above, so we know we did everything right. And so that's all there is to having to draw out all of them. So it's really, really straightforward. So the next type of practice problem that you can encounter is to fill in the missing number in a number bond. So if we think about 8, if we were given this number bond, 8 is what in 3 when you think about those bonds? Well, this equates to 8 being equal to some number plus 3. Looking at that, we know that that is 5. So the missing number in the number bond is 5. And that's all that you have to do. But let's try a few other practice problems with different parts of the number bond missing. So let's try 12, 9, and unknown. So same thing, just think about that equation. So we know that 12 is 9 plus some number. That, of course, is going to be 3. So you just fill 3 into the missing space in the number bond. The final type that you could get is one where the number at the top of the number bond is missing. So let's say we have 8 and 6, and we need to figure out what's at the top of the number bond. So something is 8 plus 6. We know that that's going to be 14. And so 14 is the missing number in that number bond. So really, that's all there is to number bonds. They look a little scary at first, but they're really straightforward. So when you're thinking about number bonds, there are 3 keys to remember. So one is fundamentally what it's about. A number bond represents 2 numbers that you can add together to get a larger number. So that's, again, what the whole goal of what this is. When you think about the second aspect, and this is getting into that why you're doing it in the first place, the number bond shows the addition and subtraction relationships that exist between the 3 numbers in the bond. So it shows you 2 numbers that add up to the larger number, and then what are the addition and subtraction relationships by following the different paths that are there in that number bond. And then the final one, which is kind of a bit of a check, is that you can find the total number of bonds for any number by just dividing it by 2 And then remember to ignore any decimal. So if it's an odd number when you divide it by 2, you just ignore anything that's in the remainder. And if it's even number, it'll divide by 2 evenly, and you won't have to worry about any type of remainder. So just ignore that decimal and you're good to go. So again, that's really all there is to number bonds. Thanks again for watching. Please like this video if it was helpful. Subscribe to our channel to stay up to date on new content. And remember, if it's math, we have the solution.